But he's still can't eat it. Oh, that's a long baby. He says, wait for me, Sarah, wait for me.
Tayside Police Museum. Fancy meeting you here.
Hello.
You get Tyler with you.
Yeah, and there's another dog as well.
Dog, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll introduce you. This is Hamish, who's Kirriemuir. Hello.
Bailey, behave yourself.
Bob and Charles in there. Because he's a YouTube.
Hello.
YouTube thing. Lynn's got YouTube. Bob
Okay.
and Lynn's wife, Sharon. Sharon and Jenny.
Tara and Poppy.
So that was how it was. You checked the prisoners through that. If you had to communicate, you would open that. And if you wanted to hand in a cup of tea, although often you handed a cup of tea in like that.
You have to stay out of the way.
Came winging back out again at you. And you're not allowed to have anything sharp in a cell. And actually, here, Dave has definitely been in this one, and Kev, has definitely been in the other one. So they've managed to get in there with something
sharp, yeah.
And this is genuine. We haven't added that. In fact, there's a footprint on the other door again, which we haven't added it just that way.
No. I mean, the size of the lock, yeah.
It's a big door.
Yeah.
It's a big door.
Ooh. The last execution in Dundee. All that truncheons and handcuffs. Oh my goodness, look at this lot. Indian sword stick. Yeah.
Number 19, very over-engineered there.
Coin, missile weapon, Spanish coin, and 2 inserted blades.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is, you wouldn't throw that, and that's why it has a little eye on the top of it.
Yeah.
So rather like 21 above it,
Yeah.
it would be on a wire. And even now, if you're watching a football match, because it's kind of started again recently, a little trouble in the crowd. Somebody will take out a handful of coins and fling them, and it might hit the goalkeeper or the the assistant ref. We get inquiries from all over the world because people collect police batons, and of course some of the sort of mid-century ones, they look very ornate, but these are what were issued. It's an indication that they weren't really used. So when I started, I was given one very similar to number 17. You were given maybe 15 minutes on how you might use it. Don't hit them on the head, try and hit them on the arm.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that did you until, well, in fact, that they were changed. So it's 1977, it's not ancient history. And so it was an armed robbery that took place in Montrose. Do you know the area at all?
Yeah, I think we've
visited. It's lovely
yeah.
town. If you ever
Yeah.
go to that, it's an excellent one to go to.
We did go there, didn't we?
And so it was a man called Morrison. He's English. He was wanted for a triple murder in London. He was hiding out in Ayrshire with his girlfriend. He got a bit spooked, and she said, "Well, I've got friends in Montrose. We can go and hide out there." So they came up to Montrose, ran out of money. He reverted to type, broke into a house and stole a shotgun. Barrel, of course, being out to there.
Yeah, yeah.
Saws that off, so he can hide it. Goes
Taking
and
the trigger guard off.
so he
as well.
goes and robs a store, exactly.
Yeah.
He, there was a little store in North West Road, Montrose. Ron Harris owned it, his cousin. It was his sister who was behind the till that day. We did not know this, and the papers did not know this story, because the anniversary of that, the 40 years, 45 years, I'm always contacted by the local press, the Courier. Hamish, we're going to run that story again. Do you have any more police that were, involved in the thing? Yeah, I've still got a few. We could just take a different angle at it. And one thing they hadn't picked up on is that Ron Harris's sister had, when the guy comes in and points the gun at and says money, she says, sling your hook, or words to that effect. And we knew all that part of it. He then goes outside, and the story that followed was that he levelled the gun at the next car along the road, which is this gentleman here, Lee Pascoe, and his wife June was the passenger. And he took them hostage, and they set off for Dundee. Actually, a gentleman now in his 50s, I think early 60s now, came in here earlier on this year and said, "Oh, I remember this." He said, "I was in the car that the gun was pointed at." And I said, we don't know that, there's no children in this car. And so he said, no. He stopped us. He says, "I was a 6-year-old, my 8-year-old brother was sitting beside me in the back seat, my dad was driving, my mum was in the front passenger seat, and the car was stopped. I didn't know why. And then the next thing was, his mother's passenger door was opened, the gun was pushed into the car, and he instructed everybody to get out. He wanted to sit in there." He said, at that point, who he now realises was Ron Harris's sister from the shop, had followed the gunman outside, grabbed a hold of the door, grabbed him by the collar, still holding this loaded shotgun, pulled him away, shouted at the car, "Drive!" and shut the door, and off they went. And it was then that he went to the next car and did that. So in fact, this woman, who was obviously very brave, but wasn't necessarily recognised for her bravery at the time, and I'm not sure why we didn't know that at the time, no reason to disbelieve him. The guy that come in now, and he's not got over it. He still talks about it in those sort of, and why would he? 6-year-old boy, guns.
Yeah, it must have been terrifying.
It must have been, and it must have been terrifying for them, because they go all the way down to Dundee. This gentleman here is a detective sergeant at the time, Jim Melville. He's had enough of this. He thinks they've got to stop this, and so he takes his unmarked CID car, which is the middle car there, and he runs into the front
Austin
of the
Princess,
Capri.
by the looks of it.
Is it Austin Princess? Runs and he runs it straight into the side of the Capri. Well, he's an oil man. He's got a good car. Oil industry has good wages. Certainly back then. So he runs him off the road, and it's about midday by now. And so it becomes a hostage situation. Morrison has got this gun, he's got a string around his wrist, it's tied to the trigger, he's holding it at her neck, and the negotiations have started, and they go on for ages. 8 o'clock that night, the chief constable is at a formal dinner, and he's not in his uniform, and he says to one of his aides, "Is that thing still going on up at Claypos?" "Yes, it is." "I'm going to sort this out myself." It's the second thing that wouldn't happen. You wouldn't get to run somebody off the road, and you certainly wouldn't get the chief constable going, "I'm going to sort this out." So he goes, grabs the megaphone, calls out to them, and says, "This is the chief constable speaking, drop your weapon, surrender yourself now." And he takes the gun, fortunately, out of the window of the car, points on there and fires it. He's reset the whole thing, actually, inadvertently. He feels responsible for that. He does take over the negotiations. What he does is he arranges an exchange of himself and Jim that ran them off the road for the Pascoes. So the Pascoes are released.
They're free, and he's hostage now.
He manages to get in the car with a revolver in his underpants, but it's not in his belt or anything, so he can't actually get to it. They set off for Ayrshire, and all the while they're saying to Morrison, "Look, give yourself up. You are just going to end up dead out of this." And he said, "No, I'll be able to take one of you with me before I go." So it goes on, they get down to Ayrshire, there's a huge roadblock with marksmen and everything down there. So Morrison sees sense, says, "Right, okay," stops the car, gets out, and John Little reaches for the gun and says, "Well, you better give me the gun. There's a lot of marksmen over there." "Oh," he says, "I want to fire it again." The chief constable reportedly said, "Oh, right, okay then." Looked around like that and said, "You can fire it at the windscreen of the car that we've just driven down in." And he was allowed to discharge the weapon, but then he hands over the gun. He actually goes down, he's convicted of the 3 murders down in London, he's never heard of again. But the bottom line is, I can talk. He obviously could talk. He could talk. And it's one of those things when my son is in the police now, he doesn't talk, you don't have to talk like that. No. Because now you've got these fancy buttons, you've got CS spray or pepper spray or whatever you use now. You've got all that now.
Save all that time,
I mean, I worked in Brecon for 19 years, and I would get, there's a boy with a knife in such and such a place. So you would go to it. You wouldn't go bringing in, but you would go to it and you would start talking to the individual that was inside while your assistance was coming from all over. And sometimes, by the time that assistance came, you talked them out of it and said, "Just put it down." And that'll go well for you. And then you would meet that individual later on when they committed some other offence, and they would remember you as the decent cop that said, "Just put it down, just come with me." Whereas nowadays, if you get sprayed, and it's really effective. I've been sprayed twice, not as an accused, but inadvertently, as we've been arresting somebody, and it's instant polax down. You just stop breathing, and you just fall to the ground. It's instant. I don't know. Right. It's not put light on it here, but it's okay.
No, that's fine.
So we talked about the uniforms through there. Most of them came from storage, or indeed, like great granddad takes his baton, takes his bayonet home as his souvenir. I had my tunic, so a tunic rather a bit like this. I was allowed to, but you know, when I'm thinking why, it's just someone else to keep the colour, so I brought it in here. So they're fairly run-of-the-mill uniforms, although they don't get issued with these now. And these look really smart. It would be a white shirt, the black tie, the epaulettes if you were in shirt sleeve order, a box shirt, so your white shirt would have lines down through the pockets and across the shoulder as well. You had to put a line across it like that, boxed as they call it. Now, well, anything goes now. And they don't wear hats, which is another thing. And if they're not wearing a hat, they're wearing a baseball cap. So. it looks really weird now. But these are really precious uniforms. So we all learn when we're at school. Robert Peel invents the police, 1829 London. Yeah, he invents the Met Police or the City of London Police. That policing has happened for years before that. Newcastle, Liverpool, Glasgow, Perth. This is a Perth police uniform from 2000. Which is over 200 years old, from 1800. And you can see it's very military looking. You could see that on Hussar at the Battle of Waterloo or something, which that uniform would predate. And it's because policing comes from the military. And even the terminology constable and sergeant don't come until a little bit later. You're talking about corporals, you're talking about sergeant does come from the military. And it sort of loses the military look over the 19th century. This is a barathea, this is called, and then we come to these capes. Again, I had a retired Met officer in here, and he said in the 70s they were still using capes, not quite as long as that, but if you're doing points duty, and traffic was pouring with rain, he said it was a godsend, because it went over off your shoulder like that, as the rain didn't drip down there. And then this uniform here, that's the beginning of the 20th century. It's about 1910. And this is, as I said, when I start, I'm getting uniforms like this, but they are not issued anymore. You can see that uniform better there. It's a collar rather than epaulettes.
Again, more military.
And again, that sort of thing. And even city police officers have the helmets, but back in the day, here we are. This is Dundee City, but actually even out in the smaller towns, that's what they wore. And these hats, these flat hats, wore that style initially, and then towards this style. Don't come in until much later.
Used to have pipe bands in the police. Dundee City Pipe Band, which is they don't have time for it now, fortunately. These fine specimens here. Dundee City Police against the German Navy, season 1897. Policing and technology. And one thing he was saying was that during most of their time, that all they had in terms of technology was a whistle. Fingerprint cameras. Where's that? I can't. Good grief. Yes. Cine camera, clockwork cine camera. Good heavens. Obviously, things for taking pictures. Prism cameras. What's that? 9 is it? Oh, that's a fingerprint camera used from 1974 by Dundee City Police. Height measuring instrument. There's some of the whistles. Get up a bit.
Right a bit. That's it. Take the strap from Rachel. Just stop. Just stuck that inside. I think that's supposed to round your neck, but round your chin, but.
Is that it?
You got to
Look
face
serious. No, you need to straighten your hat a bit. Pull it forward at the front. That's it. Excellent. God, it's really heavy, this is absolutely... God. I mean, you feel quite secure in this, I suppose. But blimey. Yeah, fascinating. Blue and yellow now. Right. Police van.
Sam's been taking loads of pictures.
Yeah.
Really cool. Very nice, that. Thank you very much.
You think, well,
We put your donation in your box.
oh, well, thanks very much.
Just wanted to say thank you to Heidi for telling us about this museum. You're one of the volunteers here, aren't you? So.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
and it's-
I'm project leader for Kirriemuir Heritage Trust, which runs the museum
Okay.
on behalf of Police Scotland.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Okay.
So
Well, we'd love to see more visitors coming in.
Yeah.
We're open on a Thursday to Saturday,
right.
11
Okay.
till 3.
Thursday to Saturday, 11 till 3.
Yeah.
So do come along. That'd be
Yeah.
great. All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks,
Heidi.
Bob.
That was brilliant.